Yunyan's body stiffened. Yuanzhou knew her best. Seeing this, his eyes became complicated and pained. He took her other hand and held both of them in his palms. Tell me the truth. You're overthinking it, Zhou. You were framed. Then how are you in contact with the Jiang family's crown prince? Yuanzhou interrupted her softly. Yuanzhou was gentle by nature, but only when facing Yunyan. He would save all his patience and tenderness for Yunyan, but towards other women, he was always known for being aloof and distant. Therefore, even if he was anxious now, he didn't raise his voice at her. Yunyan hadn't expected him to suddenly mention Jiang Yunyan. On second thought, he must have seen the content on her phone from behind just now. Most likely, he only saw the name and wasn't clear on the specifics. Jiang Yunyan is Jiang Zhe's uncle. I asked the Jiang family for help with your case. Yunyan answered ambiguously. Yuanzhou said, word by word, so you know that Jiang Yunyan was once the Yu family's bodyguard, right? Yuanzhou's face was somber. He nodded, I know. Unlike the Yu family's prominence in the Jiangnan area, the Jiang family's power in Beijing was solid. Who didn't know the Jiang family? Their influence permeated countless industries. Although there weren't many business clans that could compete with the Jiang family on the outside, the center of power within the Jiang family itself would change. After the Jiang family patriarch retired to the second line, the banner of the Jiang family was once carried by Jiang Yantai, the eldest son of the Jiang family. Later, for some unknown reason, the Jiang family's youngest son, Jiang Yanyan, returned, and in the past 2 years, his influence had far surpassed Jiang Yantai. It was said that the power in his hands had already far exceeded Jiang Yantai, and even outsiders respectfully referred to him as Crown Prince. Yuanzhou had been following his father and running the business since he was young. Naturally, any disturbance in the business world wouldn't escape his keen sense of smell, so he secretly investigated that Crown Prince. He didn't know until he investigated that Jiang Yanyan was actually Yin, the bodyguard who used to be in his family. Before the Yu family's accident, there were actually signs, so their father, Yu Yiyuan, separated some of the industry from Jiangnan and moved it to the North China area. One reason was to split up the industry, and the other was that the Jiang and Yu families had a marriage agreement. Coming to North China was equivalent to being under the Jiang family's protection. Unexpectedly, the Yu family was too large to turn around, and coupled with the Jiang family's deliberate avoidance, the Yu family ultimately couldn't escape the fate of collapse. Yin left the Yu family on very unpleasant terms. So can he really help us? Yuanzhou looked at her suspiciously, narrowing his eyes slightly and asking, what did you promise him? As far as I know, he doesn't easily interfere in outside matters. Yunyan's heart tightened, but she quickly regained her composure. Maybe he still remembers the affection of having protected me before. Seeing that Yuanzhou was still questioning her, she sighed. Do I look like something's wrong? Now you're okay too, so don't overthink it. Just helping you purely? Yunyan nodded. Yes. Fearing that Yuanzhou would delve into the matter further, she took the initiative. What exactly happened between Yin and Father back then? I don't know the specifics. I just vaguely know that someone died. Father never told me, but he did remind me. Yuanzhou raised his eyes to look at Yunyan that we should never have any dealings with Yin in this lifetime. Yunyan gasped. Do you remember that Father hosted a banquet for old Madame Jiang before the accident? Yunyan nodded. Actually, Father was going to call off the engagement that day, Yuanzhou said. Yunyan was stunned. She had a deep memory of that banquet. It was after the Yu family's industrial structure was adjusted and some of the industry was transferred to the North China area. One day, her mother suddenly told her to dress properly and hosted old Madame Jiang at the best and most private restaurant in Beijing. But Father didn't mention calling off the engagement that time. Yunyan remembered clearly that everyone at the table was talking and laughing, especially since Father drank a lot of wine, not like he was on a break with the Jiang family. Yuanzhou didn't know the details either. He only knew that the banquet was decided by his father at the last minute, but for what reason he didn't bring up the matter of calling off the engagement later was unknown. What can be confirmed is that Father should have known about Yan's identity after transferring the industry. I have a premonition that it was because he knew that Yan was originally a member of the Jiang family that Father had the idea of calling off the engagement, Yuanzhou analyzed. Yunyan thought carefully. Her father did seem a little abnormal after transferring the industry to the North China area. At first, he was very confident, believing that the Yu family could make a comeback, but later he was dejected every day for some unknown reason. At that time, she was still abroad and hadn't returned, so she only felt some abnormalities in their phone conversations. Even if Father knew that Yan was a member of the Jiang family at that time, what does that have to do with whether or not I call off the engagement? The person I'm engaged to is Jiang Zhe, not Jiang Yanyan, Yunyan said in confusion. Yuanzhou was silent for a long time, then raised his eyes to look at her. Before Father passed away, he told me that I must find a suitable opportunity to call off the engagement with the Jiang family and take you away from Beijing. So after his father passed away, he began to plan his retreat from Beijing, but he was delayed by being framed. Yunyan was shocked. What? Yu Zhuanzhou's brow furrowed heavily. Father only said one sentence. The Jiang family will change sooner or later. Yunyan's heart skipped a beat. Tonight was a good opportunity. Yunyan decided to accept Jiang Zhe's invitation and go to the Jiang family. Even without her father's instructions, she would call off the engagement. The Yu family's power was far less than before. The Jiang family's wait-and-see attitude made her feel disheartened. And then there was Jiang Yanyan. Based on the agreement they had reached, he would never tolerate her having any further involvement with Jiang Zhe. Yunyan sat in the car, watching the wandering neon lights outside the car window, and suddenly felt absurd and ridiculous. Why do you have to be a member of the Jiang family, and still her fiancé's uncle? She didn't want to see the prosperity of Beijing. In her eyes, all the splendor was just a bizarre and ridiculous farce. They made you feel like you were standing on the clouds, but you didn't know that when the clouds dispersed, you would fall from the clouds and be smashed to pieces. Yunyan gripped her phone. Jiang Yin hadn't replied to her since that message, nor had he called her. She didn't know if he was tacitly approving or what. She couldn't bother to analyze so much. The person who wanted to see her was actually old Madame Jiang. Upon learning that the driver was almost there, old Madame Jiang personally waited at the entrance of the Jiang family's old residence, with Jiang Zhe respectfully supporting her by her side. Yunyan didn't expect the old lady to come to pick her up in person. After getting out of the car, she hurried forward 3 steps and 2 steps. Grandma Jiang, how dare I trouble you to come in person? Jiang Zhe said. Grandma misses you and insisted on seeing you. She also asked the housekeeper to prepare ingredients a long time ago, all of which are your favorite foods. Yunyan didn't meet Jiang Zhe's gaze, but she heard these words and quickly supported old Madame Jiang. I've troubled you. I'm so embarrassed. Old Madame Jiang smiled and gently patted her hand. What's there to be embarrassed about? We're family. No need to be polite. Let me take a look. She looked Yunyan up and down, her eyes full of pity. Why are you thinner again? It's only been half a month since I last saw you. Oh, this child of yours. You're really worrying. Old Madame Jiang was the she Taijun, a respected elder matriarch figure in Chinese culture of the Jiang family. When she was young, she was a woman who could work alongside the Jiang family patriarch. The Jiang family's current status was also due to old Madame Jiang's undeniable contributions. After the Jiang family patriarch passed away, the entire Jiang family revered old Madame Jiang. Although her sons were now in charge, the old lady still had a lot of say in the Jiang family. Jiang Zhe called her grandma. Based on the marriage relationship, Yunyan also had to call old Madame Jiang grandma. Old Madame Jiang liked Yunyan very much the first time she saw her. Yunyan was 16 years old that year. The Jiang family patriarch was still alive that year. Upon learning that old Madame Jiang had taken a fancy to the Yu family's daughter, he personally visited the Yu family and arranged the marriage. Yunyan supported old Madame Jiang all the way back into the house. Old Madame Jiang chattered all the way, looking extremely happy. Just as they returned to the house and hadn't even warmed the sofa, the housekeeper stepped forward and softly informed old Madame Jiang, "Third master is back." Yunyan's back stiffened. To speak of the Jiang family's old mansion, it has a lot of history. To be precise, every window in the house is hundreds of years old, with old gatehouse lattice windows and towering ancient trees in the courtyard for viewing lotus flowers and admiring willows. It was built during the Qianlong period, when the Jiangnan style was popular, so the Jiang family's old mansion has a distinct Jiangnan charm, yet also possesses the grandeur of the capital. The Jiang family's ancestors were officials for generations, and the old mansion was passed down from generation to generation. However, with the outbreak of war, the old mansion was not spared, and the fate of the Jiang family's old mansion can be described as how many pavilions in the misty rain. After peace was restored, the old mansion changed hands several times before finally returning to the Jiang family. The elders of the Jiang family spared no effort to get the old mansion back. This is also why, despite the many people in the Beijing circle and despite the many people with power and wealth, no one can compete with the Jiang family. The Jiang family's deep roots in Beishur began more than a century ago. Old Master Jiang and old Madame Jiang had 3 sons and 1 daughter. When the old master was alive, the Jiang family still adhered to the traditions of their ancestors and lived in the old mansion. Later, as the Jiang family's power shifted, the Jiang family's daughter was the first to move out of the old mansion, followed by the Jiang family's second son. After Jiang Yanyan returned to the Jiang family to recognize his ancestors, he did not live in the old mansion. He had his own property under his name and only returned to the old mansion during festivals. Therefore, the old mansion was essentially inhabited by the eldest son's family and old Madame Jiang. Old Madame Jiang is open-minded and used to being independent, so she wasn't as strict as the old master about her children's coming and going, letting them decide for themselves. Outsiders say that old Madame Jiang is indifferent and arrogant, and there's indeed some truth to that. She doesn't care about many famous socialites in Beijing, and she refuses to see many high-ranking officials who come to visit. Her personality is quite unruly, but she especially likes Yunyan. She really liked her from the very first sight. When Yunyan is not in Beishur, she always calls Yunyan frequently, and they can chat for a long time. The butler personally led the servants to greet Third Master at the entrance. This was the title that old Master Jiang had the butler, and the others changed to when he was still alive. Before, the butler was always used to calling them young master, but the old master frowned and said, "What era is this to still be calling them young master?" Therefore, the butler learned to be clever. The eldest young master was called first master, the second young master was called second master, the third daughter was not ranked, so the butler still retained the title of Mississippi. Jiang Yinyan is the third son in the family, and also the youngest son, so he was given the ranking and became third master. When Jiang Nin entered the house, the wind was picking up outside, as if it was about to rain, and it was very dark. The wind poured into the hall, and it was chilling. Yunyan couldn't help but shiver. Old Madame Jiang's attention was all on Jiang Yinyan, and she didn't notice Yunyan's abnormal complexion. After all, he was the old lady's most beloved youngest son, and he suffered so much when he was young, so she naturally felt even more sorry for him. The old lady went up to greet him, asking him with concern, "Why did you come back today? The weather outside is bad. Be careful not to catch cold." Jiang Yinyan was wearing a dark short-sleeved t-shirt and black suit pants, which made him look tall and slender. Behind him were large French windows, and outside the windows was a dark night scene with treacherous winds and clouds, and the shadows of the trees swayed like ghosts. When his gaze looked into the house, his eyes were also dark and deep, making people feel palpitate. Across the air, their eyes met, and Yunyan's heart jumped into her throat. Instead, Jiang Zhe sat over and gently put his arm around her shoulders, holding her hand in his. He said in surprise, "Yunyan, why are your hands so cold?" He then looked up at the butler and ordered, "Adjust the room temperature." The butler did as he was told. Yunyan subconsciously pulled her hand away, and when she wanted to push Jiang Ze's arm away, Jiang Ze tightened his grip, and she frowned slightly. Jiang Ze. She had a faint feeling that Jiang Ze was doing it on purpose. Even if she didn't look up again, she could feel Jiang Yinyan's gaze pressing down with a powerful oppressive force, like a rope tightly changed her, making it difficult for her to breathe. "Are there guests at home?" Jiang Yinyan's voice sounded as if he was smiling. He asked old Madame Jiang, but his gaze remained on Yunyan without any concealment. Before old Madame Jiang could speak, Jiang Ze spoke first. "Uncle, she is Yunyan, the one I mentioned to you, my fiancée." The daughter of the Yu family, old Madame Jiang patted Jiang Yinyan's hand and added, "She was engaged to a Zhang many years ago." "Yu family?" Jiang Yinyan walked forward, took the hand towel handed over by the butler, and said casually, "The Yu family that went bankrupt half a year ago?" Yunyan felt as if she had been slapped in the face from afar. Old Madame Jiang's face was also not very good, and she gently patted Jiang Yinyan's arm. "The business world is like a battlefield. Who can guarantee that they can be prosperous forever? I like this little girl, Nian, very much. Maybe this is called fate." The meaning was quite obvious. "Grandma Jiang." Yunyan finally broke free from Jiang Ze's restraint and stepped forward to respectfully say to old Madame Jiang, "I suddenly remember that I still have something to deal with. I'll leave first and come to see you another day." Old Madame Jiang was stunned. "Ah, Nian." Jiang Ze got up and stepped forward and again put his arm around her waist in front of Jiang Yinyan, appearing affectionate. "Didn't we agree to come back to have dinner with Grandma? I know, you're afraid of strangers, right? Uncle is our own family, and it's rare for him to come back once." Jiang Yinyan's eyes were indifferent, falling on Jiang Ze's smiling face, and then back on Yunyan. He just smiled lightly. "Miss you is shy?" Yunyan was now certain that Jiang Ze was doing it on purpose. He probably guessed something when he saw Jiang Yinyan's driver in the underground garage. Now, instead of clarifying, he was pretending to be harmonious, not knowing if he had other plans or was afraid that old Madame Jiang would worry. Old Madame Jiang was now ignoring everything happening outside. Sometimes she would go out for tea with her fixed friends, and sometimes she would tend to flowers and plants and read books at home. She had a good hand at calligraphy and often wrote and painted. Although the Jiang family's children had secret struggles, they still cared a lot about old Madame Jiang, and no one wanted to bother her with outside affairs, protecting the old lady very well. So Yunyan felt like she was in a world of ice and fire. Jiang Ze was standing close to her, warm as fire, and in front of her stood Jiang Yinyan, cold as ice. This situation made Yunyan very uncomfortable. and she didn't want old Madame Jiang to see anything. Old Madame Jiang was someone who treated her very well even when the Yu family had problems, and she couldn't bear to hurt or disappoint her kindness. It's rare for you to be together as a family, so I won't disturb you. Yunyan forced herself to be generous, and I really have something to do. What do you mean you people as a family? I don't like to hear you say that, you silly girl. Old Madame Jiang missed Yunyan so much. How could you let her leave so easily? She gently took her hand. Don't you miss Grandma? Even if it's a big deal, you have to eat first. It's almost dinner time. She turned to look at Jiang Yunyan. Third, stay for dinner? Yunyan was forced to stay. Grandma Jiang's attitude was firm. Even if the sky fell, she would eat this meal with her. And Jiang Yunyan's attitude was very profound and difficult to understand. He said, since Miss Yu came to the house just to reminisce about the past, then don't be in a hurry to leave. Yunyan's heart sank. He misunderstood her. It stemmed from Jiang Zhe's previous sentence. Wasn't it agreed that you would come back to have dinner with Grandma? She told Jiang Yunyan on the phone that she came to the Jiang family's old house to clear up her relationship with Jiang Zhe, but Jiang Zhe stirred things up like this, so it's inevitable that he would think she was two-faced, secretly plotting. With a clear conscience, she originally came to the old house to find an opportunity to explain things to the old lady Jiang. Now that her father is gone, and the old master Jiang has also passed away, even if the old lady Jiang is indifferent to worldly affairs, she is still the most authoritative elder in the Jiang family and has the right to speak. From Jiang Zhe's statement, Yunyan could smell something was wrong. Jiang Zhe didn't seem to intend to break off the engagement, so she could only persuade the old lady Jiang to make the decision. Yunyan thought that given the current state of the Yu family, even if the old lady Jiang wanted to help, she would have to think about the interests of the Jiang family. Dinner was eaten in the small dining room, the place where old lady Jiang usually ate. After the old master Jiang passed away, the large dining room of the old house had never been used. It was too big like a banquet hall. But the small dining room was actually not small, enough for up to 10 people to dine. Old lady Jiang sat in the main seat and let Yunyan sit next to her. Jiang Zhe naturally sat beside her. Jiang Yunyan sat opposite, and Yunyan could meet his gaze with just a glance. The housekeeper ordered the chef to serve the dishes, a table full of delicacies. Old lady Jiang was amiable and said softly to Yunyan, Zhe remembers clearly what you like to eat and what you don't like to eat. The chef also emphasizes Jiangnan flavors in terms of taste. Try it. Yunyan looked at the familiar dishes on the table, her throat feeling blocked, and said a little, the chef at the old house is trustworthy. It had nothing to do with whether Jiang Zhe remembered or not. She just missed home, missed the Yu family that could never be returned to. Jiang Zhe mistakenly thought she was touched and hurriedly said, you don't know, Grandma asked the housekeeper to prepare the ingredients early in the morning. She was so happy to know you were coming. Yunyan looked at old lady Jiang, and this time she was truly moved. Child, I know you must be sad that something happened to the Yu family, but it doesn't matter. Doesn't this also have the Jiang family? This is your home. Come back whenever you want to eat dishes from your hometown. The ones outside aren't authentic. Old lady Jiang looked at her with pity. Just as Yunyan was about to speak, she heard Jiang Yunyan chuckle softly. She looked up. Mother, Jiang Yunyan said, looking at old lady Jiang, the chef at the old house may not be able to satisfy Miss Yu's taste. After all, oranges from the south turn into trifoliate oranges when planted in the north. These words were meaningful. Old lady Jiang didn't think so much and said with a smile, if this chef doesn't work, then we'll just change chefs. What's so difficult about that? We'll just keep changing until our Nian Yin is satisfied. Jiang Zhe leaned close to her and said with a chuckle, look how much Grandma dotes on you. I'm even jealous. You rascal, the one I'm doting on is your future wife, my future granddaughter-in-law. What do you have to be jealous about? Yes, Grandma is right. Old lady Jiang was in a good mood today and liked to talk at the dinner table. First, she complained that everyone was busy with work and didn't spend time talking to her. Especially you, kid. Old lady Jiang looked at Jiang Yinyan with feigned resentment. Your older siblings come back, but you never come with them. Jiang Yinyan softened his voice and said with a smile, Mom, when I come back alone, I can still talk to you. When I come back with them, I can't even get a word in. Nonsense. Old lady Jiang doted on her youngest son, and her reprimands were all affectionate. Yinyan, although you and Aze aren't that much older than each other, you're still separated by a generation. Now that Aze is getting married, you, as the uncle, can't be left behind by your nephew, right? Mom, my affairs aren't urgent. Jiang Yinyan remained calm. Jiang Zhe smiled across the table and said, Uncle's not urgent will make Grandma anxious. Now even the aunt who is a staunch unmarried person is about to get married. Does Uncle want to stay single forever? Jiang Yinyan calmly picked up food. His every move was very self-disciplined and courteous, with the elegance and etiquette of a wealthy family. He just raised his eyelids slightly, with a smile that wasn't really a smile. Are you teaching me what to do? Jiang Zhe felt that although he was smiling, the depths of his eyes were bottomless and dark, and for some reason, a chill arose in his back. He cleared his throat. How could I be? I'm just worried about Uncle. If Uncle isn't anxious, then Grandma will have to make a move, and wouldn't Uncle be the one who suffers then? The corners of old lady Jiang's eyes and eyebrows were filled with smiles. See, Aze knows me best. Yin, the other day your Uncle Sue's daughter. Mom, Jiang Yin softly interrupted old lady Jiang's words. There's a guest here today, so let's not talk about this topic. Yin isn't a guest. She'll be family sooner or later. Old lady Jiang turned her head, took Yin's hand, and looked at her with joy. In fact, Yin had been looking for an opportunity, and after hearing this, she took a deep breath and said, Grandma Jiang, I actually came here today, to discuss the specific details of the wedding with Grandma. Jiang Zhe smoothly intercepted Yin's words, affectionately putting his arm around her shoulder. There was a little trouble in Wanzhou before, and Yin was in the mood. Now that everything has passed, the marriage between me and Yin should also be put on the agenda. Grandma, you're the ancestor of our family. If you nod, no one will dare to object. Yin looked at Jiang Zhe in astonishment and immediately understood. It seems that GZ had been pestering him a lot in secret, and according to GZ's nature, she would never give up. Jiang Zhe was afraid of being caught off guard, and at this moment, publicly announcing the marriage was the best way to protect himself. Except for Jiang Yin, the Jiang family sons all married someone suitable, and naturally would not allow an actress to enter the door. Jiang Zhe is the eldest grandson of the Jiang family, and he can only follow the arrangements of the elders when it comes to marriage and having children. As for Jiang Zhe, rather than marrying an actress who would blackmail him and lower the elders' goodwill towards him, it would be better to continue the engagement with her. It was better to be familiar than to be new. Even if her Yu family had declined, she was still a fallen socialite. At least her background was better to hear. No wonder Jiang Zhe was so active today and even put on a loving act in front of old lady Jiang. Being able to act is very suitable for GZ. However, Jiang Zhe said one thing correctly. Old lady Jiang is the ancestor of the Jiang family and has a lot to say. As long as she nods, even if Jiang Zhe's father, Jiang Yintai, is unwilling, it will be useless. Yin clearly felt the pressure from across the table. He had no trust in her. He would trust Jiang Zhe more. Grandma Jiang was overjoyed when she heard this, her eyes shining with joy, and she kept saying, It's good to settle it. It's good to settle it. You two have been together for so many years. It's time to settle down. The misunderstandings can't continue like this. Yin didn't want to be wishy-washy. The moment she said that, Jiang Zhe's expression changed drastically, while old Mrs. Jiang was stunned, staring at Yin in astonishment. Only Jiang Yin remained as calm as ever, his brow undisturbed, still leisurely picking up food and eating. Every move was proper and composed, as if he were completely oblivious to what was happening at the table. Yin subconsciously glanced at Jiang Yin, unable to discern his thoughts from his overly calm expression. Jiang Zhe was clearly angry, but he suppressed his displeasure, adopting a gentle and patient tone. Yin, I know you're angry with me. There's nothing between GZ and me. And about Wanzhou, he's fine now, isn't he? Yin looked at Jiang Zhe, feeling both amused and exasperated, and suddenly wondered why she had only just thought of breaking off the relationship with him. It must be said that Jiang Zhe was indeed handsome, inheriting the Jiang family men's dashing demeanor, which was one of the reasons why so many socialites in the capital chased after him. However, it wouldn't be wrong to say he was thick-skinned. Nothing between him and GZ. Is that all there is based on a statement to the public? In the matter with Wanzhou, how could he even have the nerve to mention it? I'm not angry, Yin said calmly. I just think we're not suitable. She looked at old Mrs. Jiang. Seeing the shock and astonishment still in her eyes, she sighed softly, her tone softening. Grandma Jiang, I remember all your kindness to me. Now that my father is gone, and my mother is, the Yu family relatives are dwindling, and no one can come forward to arrange my marriage, so I'm here today to say it myself. Yin, let me speak first. Old Mrs. Jiang interrupted Jiang Zhe, looking at Yin with confusion. I know about the Yu family's troubles, which is why I want you to marry into the Jiang family sooner. You're not without family. The Jiang family is your family, your support. But what was that G's name Aze mentioned? And Wanzhou, you said something happened to him. What happened? The old lady was truly oblivious to the outside world, completely unaware of the many things that had happened recently. Grandma Jiang, Wanzhou is fine. It was just a small problem before. If you miss him, let him come see you in a couple of days, Yin explained softly. Yin glossed over the matter of Yu Wanzhou, because the person who solved the problem was sitting right across from her, and it was by sacrificing her own pride that she achieved it, so she didn't want to say more. Old Mrs. Jiang was suspicious. Although Yunyan said so, she still couldn't put her mind at ease. When Jiang Zhe mentioned Wanzhou just now, she was only happy and didn't notice anything at the time, but now she felt something was wrong. Wanzhou is really okay? Old Mrs. Jiang asked, but before Yunyan could answer, she looked at Jiang Zhe. You tell me the truth, what happened to Wanzhou? Is he really okay now, or are you trying to fob me off? Although old Mrs. Jiang didn't interfere in matters, she was still the most authoritative elder in the Jiang family. As a junior, Jiang Zhe could usually joke around with the old lady, but he was also afraid of her anger. He cautiously replied, Grandma, Wanzhou just committed a small offense, but he's really okay now. You don't need to worry. Committed a small offense? Old Mrs. Jiang wasn't confused. Her eyes narrowed slightly. Then how was it resolved? Did you step in to solve it? Jiang Zhe opened his mouth, unable to answer for a long time. Old Mrs. Jiang's expression tightened, frowning. Why aren't you answering? Wanzhou ran into trouble. Did you not care or ask about it? Grandma, I definitely care about Wanzhou. It's just that this matter. Jiang Zhe trailed off. Yunyan sat uncomfortably on the side. She didn't want to drag this matter on any longer. She was just about to say that she had asked someone to handle it, but unexpectedly, the man sitting across from her said lightly, I asked someone to handle it. Yunyan's back stiffened. Jiang Ze's expression froze. Yunyan stared at Jiang Yunyan, not caring about Jiang Ze's expression. Her heart was in her throat, feeling anxious. Jiang Yunyan, what are you going to do? Old Mrs. Jiang was surprised, questioning you. The unspoken meaning was, why would you step in? As soon as old Mrs. Jiang reacted like this, Yunyan suddenly understood. It seemed that Jiang Yunyan's time as a bodyguard in the Yu family was extremely secretive. Perhaps only old Mr. Jiang knew, or perhaps even old Mr. Jiang didn't know. At least the old Mrs. Jiang in front of her was completely unaware, only knowing that her most beloved youngest son had been kidnapped and suffered greatly outside, and finally returned to the Jiang family to be recognized. Jiang Zhe pursed his lips tightly, staring at Jiang Yunyan without saying a word. Jiang Yunyan remained calm and indifferent. I unintentionally heard about Miss Yu's younger brother's matter. Since he was someone related to the Jiang family, I just helped out. So Wanzhou is really okay? Mom, are you still worried about my work? Jiang Yunyan smiled slightly. I'm relieved. I'm most relieved with your work. If you say it's okay, then it must be okay. Old Mrs. Jiang was happy and relieved. She turned to look at Jiang Zhe. Look at you. Yunyan's affairs are your affairs. Your affairs still need your uncle to personally step in. The displeasure in Jiang Ze's eyes quietly dissipated, replaced by a smile. I didn't dare to bother you, uncle. I didn't expect you to help out anyway. I'll thank you, uncle, on behalf of Yunyan. He turned to look at Yunyan, saying gently, you should have told me about uncle's help. If old Mrs. Jiang hadn't been present, Yunyan wouldn't have bothered saying half a word to Jiang Zhe about Wanzhou's matter. But in front of old Mrs. Jiang, she couldn't afford to lose her composure, so she said, I only found out later. She forced herself to look at Jiang Yunyan, so I'm very grateful to Mr. Jiang. Jiang Yunyan's gaze didn't waver, falling directly on her face without any restraint. He chuckled. Grateful? As Miss Yu thought about how to thank me. Yunyan's breath suddenly hitched. Uncle. Jiang Zhe suddenly spoke, his tone turning cold. Jiang Yunyan's eyelids lifted slightly. Looking at him, his eyes seemed to contain ice. Jiang Zhe was startled by the look in his eyes. He cleared his throat and lowered his voice, smiling obsequiously. You'll scare Yunyan if you say that. She's timid. Jiang Yunyan ignored Jiang Zhe, looking at Yunyan with amusement, asking, is Miss Yu timid? Yunyan's lips moved, unsure how to answer this question. Old Mrs. Jiang spoke. Oh, what's with all the thanking? We're all family from now on. She took Yunyan's hand and comforted her softly. Yunyan, Ze's uncle, he's also your uncle from now on. He's just joking sometimes, don't take it to heart. Yunyan almost choked on the phrase, also your uncle from now on. She subconsciously looked at Jiang Yunyan. His brow was cold and indifferent. But he also spoke, his voice as cold and indifferent as the temperature between his brows. I'm afraid Miss Yu won't be able to call me uncle. He looked at Yunyan, his eyes like frost on the roof tiles. Since you want to break off the engagement, Miss Yu had better take my words to heart. Yunyan secretly clenched her fingers, digging them into her palm until it hurt. Others might not understand the true meaning of his words, but she understood. He was practically saying, Miss Yu, you'd better fulfill the agreement. Old Mrs. Jiang was actually trying to avoid the topic of breaking off the engagement. It wasn't that she hadn't seen Yunyan's determination. She just wanted to pretend to be ignorant, not wanting to have her efforts ruined by her youngest son. So she could only aim the cannon at Jiang Zhe again. You haven't talked about the matter with that person you mentioned earlier? Zhe, you have a fiancé. On the surface, she was scolding him, but in reality, she was giving Jiang Zhe a chance to explain. How could Jiang Zhe not understand old Mrs. Jiang's thoughts? He was about to express his deep affection for Yunyan, but he was immediately interrupted by Yunyan's words. Grandma Jiang, it has nothing to do with whether he cheated or not. Her attitude was very firm, turning to look at Jiang Zhe. It's that I don't want to marry him. Our fate is over. Before Jiang Zhe could say anything, she looked at old Mrs. Jiang again, saying softly, You can blame me, you can scold me, but I'm definitely breaking off the engagement. Grandma Jiang, it doesn't matter if we can't be a family. As long as you want to see me, I'll come and keep you company anytime. We can go out for afternoon tea, or I can accompany you shopping or flower arranging. Old Mrs. Jiang panicked at these words. I understand, Yin. Something happened to the Yu family, and you're not in the mood to get married, right? It doesn't matter. Zhe can wait when the time comes. Grandma Jiang, Yunyan sighed softly. If you truly care for me, please don't make things difficult for me anymore. Jiang Zhe and I are not suitable. Forced melons are not sweet. You wouldn't want to see us end up falling apart, would you? At least if we separate now, it won't be so embarrassing for each other, right? Old Mrs. Jiang was wise and understood Yunyan's personality. Once she made a decision, it was difficult to change her mind. But she was still reluctant, feeling distressed for a moment and angry at Jiang Zhe's lack of initiative. Jiang Zhe naturally didn't want to reach the point of breaking up. He lowered his voice anxiously. Yin, Grandma's health is already not good. Do you have to be so ruthless? Yunyan turned to look at him, her eyes indifferent, retorting in a low voice. Are you not ruthless enough? Jiang Zhe's expression was angry. Yin, old Mrs. Jiang didn't have the mind to listen to their whispers. Turning to Jiang Yin for help, you also persuade Yin. Yin thought he wouldn't try to persuade her. He would be doing well if he didn't humiliate her. Jiang Yin spoke, his voice lazy, but he was speaking to old Mrs. Jiang. Mom, since Miss Yu is determined to break off the engagement, our Jiang family can only agree. We can't force a girl into marriage, can we? Uncle, Jiang Zhe was anxious. What do you mean force a girl into marriage? It sounds so bad. She's my wife. Jiang Yin asked indifferently. Registered? Jiang Zhe was silent. Even those who are married have the right to divorce, let alone you two who are just engaged. Jiang Yin said unhurriedly, since the fate is over, don't force it. Making things difficult for both families is unnecessary. Yin felt that from the moment they reunited until now, this was the time she truly wanted to thank him. Old Mrs. Jiang's face was extremely ugly, but she had no words to refute, so she could only grasp Yunyan's hand tightly, asking sadly, Yin, are you really willing to leave the Jiang family? Willing to leave Grandma? Grandma Jiang, in my heart, you are always the most important person, Yunyan said softly. It would be a lie to say she wasn't sad, but this sadness wasn't because of Jiang Zhe, but because of Grandma Jiang. She was someone who truly treated Yunyan well, so it was definitely hard apart. But Yunyan also admitted that she always maintained etiquette towards the Jiang family, and also adhered to the rules. The fact that she called old Mrs. Jiang Grandma Jiang was also a sense of boundary in her heart. She didn't rush to change her address to Grandma, just because the two families had a marriage agreement. This was probably also the reason why old Mrs. Jiang liked her more. Old Mrs. Jiang sighed heavily. Jiang Zhe felt a little panicked at this sight. He had originally planned to use Grandma to put pressure on Yunyan today, but now he felt that the situation was getting worse and worse. Yunyan, he stopped mid-sentence when he saw old Mrs. Jiang shaking her head at him, signaling him to stop talking about this topic. But he couldn't vent the anger in his heart. Looking at Jiang Yunyan, he said, Uncle doesn't have a woman in his life, so he doesn't understand that matters of love are inherently complicated. So it's better not to add fuel to the fire. Although old Mrs. Jiang didn't want Jiang Zhe to say more, fearing that things would get out of control, she agreed with this sentence. Your nephew is right. After all, you've been together for so many years, there's still some affection. Yin, it's time for you to find a woman too, otherwise your cold personality. I have a woman in my life, Jiang Yin said quietly. Old Mrs. Jiang froze. Jiang Zhe was stunned, and Yunyan's heart trembled. She subconsciously looked at Jiang Yin. She didn't know how she felt at this moment. It was very complicated. Old Mrs. Jiang was the first to react, becoming excited. What? Mom, you didn't hear wrong. I said I have a woman in my life, Jiang Yin repeated. Tell me quickly, which family's girl is it? Old Mrs. Jiang asked anxiously. Yunyan sat uncomfortably on the side. She wanted to leave, not wanting to participate in this topic. She couldn't guess the next move Jiang Yin was going to make, and she was afraid that he would reveal their affairs, but the chances of that were actually slim. So the woman Jiang Yin was talking about wasn't her. Would she be considered a woman in his life? The word woman in his life at least had a romantic connotation. Since he had a woman he liked, why did he make such a request of her? Yunyan's chest felt tight and uncomfortable. So in his eyes, She was already low and worthless beneath the dirt. Jiang Yinyan put down his cup, not looking at her. It's not the right time yet, so it's not convenient to reveal. Is that so? Old Mrs. Jiang was slightly disappointed. Then you have to bring her back as soon as possible for me to see. Jiang Yinyan smiled slightly, not saying yes or no. On the other hand, Jiang Zhe narrowed his eyes slightly, with suspicion and probing. Uncle, what kind of woman are you protecting so well? You're not even revealing her to your family. Her. Jiang Yinyan's gaze fell on the teacup, one hand holding the cup, his slender thumb gently stroking the rim, then slowly spitting out 2 words, very seductive. It seemed like a playful jest, with a clang sound from across the table. Although it was very light, the restaurant was quiet. Jiang Yinyan's gaze fell over. Yunyan's sleeves were splashed with some soup. She had just touched the spoon. Seeing this, old Mrs. Jiang quickly ordered the housekeeper to bring a clean towel, but Yunyan stopped her. After entering the restroom, Yunyan immediately cleaned her sleeve. It wasn't very dirty to begin with, but she needed to calm down. Where did this flustered feeling come from? From Jiang Yinyan's unpredictable behavior. She didn't know if he had a girlfriend, nor did she want to presume that his very charming comment was referring to her. She just felt that if she stayed at the dinner table any longer, things would spiral out of control, and that feeling made her very uneasy. Yunyan turned on the water tap, the water trickling out. After wetting and cleaning her sleeve, she thought it was best to end this meal as soon as possible and leave the Jiang family home. Now, in addition to Jiang Yinyan's erratic behavior that made her uneasy, there was also Jiang Zhe. Were there any fools in the Jiang family? Jiang Zhe only needed to ask around to find out who had ultimately resolved the issue in Wanzhou. Knowing that Jiang Yinyan had intervened but pretending to be ignorant, what exactly did Jiang Zhe want? Yunyan inadvertently recalled Zhuanzhou's words. Father says the Jiang family is about to undergo a change. What did this change refer to? Yunyan took a deep breath. Just as she was about to turn off the water, the restroom door was pushed open. The restroom was very large, and it was too late by the time Yunyan belatedly realized what was happening. He was Jiang Yinyan. He had come in. Yunyan started, her face paling. This was the Jiang family home. What did he want? Jiang Yinyan slowly walked forward, standing beside her, leisurely washing his hands and taking a bright white square towel to dry them. Misused push-and-pull tactics are very well played. Yunyan's heart skipped a beat. He was coming at her directly. She didn't want to argue with him in a place like this. If they were seen together by the Jiang family servants, it would naturally cause trouble. Suppressing her reaction, she softly said, sorry for holding up Master Yin from using the restroom. With that, she turned to leave, but when she reached the door, she found that Jiang Yinyan had locked it when he came in. Her breathing hitched slightly, and she reached for the lock. Unexpectedly, the man gripped her wrist tightly from behind and, in the next moment, turned her around and pinned her against the wall. The man's grip was strong. Yunyan was already delicate, and the impact of being forcibly pinned against the wall made her back ache, the pain reaching all the way to her heart. Jiang Yinyan held her waist with one hand, though Yunyan felt like he was about to break her waist. He ran his other hand up her cheek and around to the back of her head, forcing her to look up at him. Did you come here today to break off a relationship with him? His handsome face was close to hers, his straight nose almost touching hers. His voice was low and deep, so deep that it felt suffocating. If you listened closely, there was even a hint of gritted teeth. Yunyan had expected this, from Jiang Yinyan's aggressive attitude at the dinner table. Or rather, from the moment he stepped through the Jiang family's door, Yunyan had a faint feeling that he wouldn't let her off easily. What's more, Jiang Zhe had dragged the Jiang old madam out as backup. Over the years, the Jiang old madam had been extremely good to Yunyan, already considering her a granddaughter-in-law. So Yunyan knew very well that, despite the Jiang old madam's seemingly compromising attitude today, if she genuinely accepted the annulment of the engagement, that would be fine. But if she didn't accept it, she would find ways to make the marriage happen. Yunyan thought that this might be the reason for Jiang Yinyan's displeasure. Her attitude remained restrained. Meeting his gaze, she said, Master Yin also heard what I said at the dinner table. You sound playing push and pull? Fine, then please teach me how to say it, Master Yin. Jiang Yinyan stared at her, his eyes dark and cold. Why Yunyan didn't look away, but her heart was pounding and her whole body was tense. She didn't know what Jiang Yinyan would do if he was provoked, but she was afraid of him. That was a fact. Jiang Yinyan slightly raised his face, but the pressure he exerted was still present, not diminished in the slightest. Gradually, his expression changed. His gaze slid down to her sensual red lips, then traveled all the way down to her snow-white neck. His eyes filled with obvious interest. A man's interest in a woman, naked and undisguised at a man who appeared abstinent on the outside, but whose eyes were stained with desire, was extremely captivating at this moment. Any other woman would inevitably be drowned in his bottomless sea of desire. Perhaps he wouldn't even need to do anything. Just such a look, deep and full of heavy desire, would make people want to throw themselves at him. Yunyan didn't recognize this Jiang Yinyan. In her eyes, Yin was only abstinent and silent. He was always proper, and his every move was never presumptuous. This made her very sure that Yin only had the task of protecting her in his eyes. He never had any woman in his heart or eyes, nor had he ever paid attention to any woman. It was as if he was completely immune to matters of love. She had once asked him curiously, Yin, don't you have a private life? The bodyguards have time to rest. Don't you need to rest? He replied, protecting Miss is my life. Yin didn't have a private life. In his opinion, he didn't need a private life, because it was the Yu family who had pulled him out of deep water. Yin said, I will repay the Yu family's kindness. So he diligently protected her, never batting an eye at any danger, not even at the cost of his life. She laughed and said, No, Yin, I mean a private life. Everyone should have a private life. Yin, you should have one too. He didn't hesitate, nor did he think, and said, Miss is my private life. The former Yin had disappeared just like that. For a moment, Yunyan felt resentment in her heart. She really wanted Jiang Yinyan to return her Yin to her. Jiang Yinyan spoke, but the desire in his eyes was like a flowing river, unrestrained and uncontrolled. You don't think that just because Yuan Shou has been released, everything will be fine, do you? It was a very low and understated sentence, but it made Yunyan start and look at him with more vigilance. Jiang Yinyan seemed very satisfied with her reaction and lowered his face. I can get him out, and I can get him back in. Miss you, I never go easy on people who go back on their word. The large hand holding her waist reached under her clothes. The man's fingers were slightly cold, and the places he gently caressed caused her to tremble slightly. So don't test my patience, understand? I didn't play push and pull. I didn't understand. Jiang Yinyan didn't intend to listen to her explanation, raising his voice slightly and staring at her. Yunyan stopped explaining and softly said, Understood. Jiang Yinyan was satisfied, his brow relaxed, and the look in his eyes became even more interested why Yunyan's scalp tightened. Just as she was about to remind him that if they didn't go back soon, people would start to suspect, she heard someone knock on the restroom door. Yinyan, are you in there? It was Jiang Zhe's voice. Yunyan was stunned, her voice catching in her throat for a moment. Jiang Zhe knocked on the door twice more, that why Yunyan couldn't answer, nor could she not answer. The man leaned in, his large hand lightly touching her back. Without the barrier of clothing, the man's slightly cold fingers caused her to tremble slightly. He seemed to caress her skin intentionally, his thin lips sliding along her cheek to her ear, and he opened his mouth to hold her earlobe. The man's extremely aggressive behavior caught Yunyan completely unprepared. Her whole body trembled, and just as she wanted to push him away, he suddenly pulled her closer and whispered, Don't dare to make a sound. Don't do this, Yunyan said almost breathlessly, almost pleading. Jiang Yinyan chuckled. Don't do what? His slender fingers unhooked her bra, and a cool sensation immediately swept over her body. This, or, his lips slowly moved down her earlobe, gently nibbling at her neck. This. The man's hot breath enveloped her tightly. She couldn't avoid it, couldn't escape, and her heart rose and fell with his actions. She understood that she couldn't beg him. The more she begged him, the more he would look down on her, and the more humiliation he would inflict. Yinyan, are you all right? Outside the door, Jiang Zhe still hadn't left. Yinyan was experiencing a mix of fire and ice. Jiang Yinyan chuckled. There's so many restrooms in the old house. Why do you think he's so sure you're here? Yinyan's head swam. Clearly, a servant had seen her come in. Striving to adjust her breathing, she said, I'm fine. Jiang Zhe outside the door seemed relieved and softly asked, Grand and has several sets of clothes in the old house. They're all new. Should I get you one to change into? Hearing this, Jiang Yinyan curved his lips into a faint smile and opened her collar, gave her a light bite, causing Yunyan to gasp in surprise. She was too close to the door, and her unprepared gasp was heard by Jiang Zhe. Knocking on the door, he asked, Yinyan? No need. The clothes aren't that dirty. Yunyan tried to suppress her trembling, placing one hand on Jiang Yinyan's chest, but he didn't allow her to refuse at all. His thin lips continued to caress her skin. At the same time, his large hand was slowly moving upwards, his slender fingers lightly wandering on the edge of her bra, both coercive and bewitching. Yinyan, can you come out? I want to talk to you. Jiang Zhe's tone became lower again. Yunyan's heart felt as if it were placed above a melting furnace. Jiang Yinyan was wreaking havoc on her inside the door, while Jiang Zhe refused to leave outside the door. A large area of skin on her chest was exposed to the air, and the man could see all of her beautiful figure from above. She could clearly see that Jiang Yinyan's eyes were becoming more intense, and the oppressive aura was becoming even heavier. She had no choice but to lower her head. Master Yin, I beg you to let me leave with some dignity. And then, Jiang Yinyan slightly turned his face, staring at her. Yinyan lowered her eyes, forced to a dead end by his aura. She could only say, and then, you can do whatever you want. Whatever I want. Jiang Yinyan chuckled. She could hear the sarcasm in his tone, pursed her lips, and nodded lightly. Jiang Yinyan laughed, raised his hand and lightly pinched her chin, resting his thumb on her lips, slowly releasing her tightly pursed lips. He said, Miss Yu, don't forget that from the moment you begged me, I can do whatever I want with you. I know. Yinyan's voice was very soft, and if you listen carefully, it was still carrying a faint tremor. But today, is Master Yin sure he wants to tear off the facade? Jiang Yinyan leaned closer to her face. Are you threatening me? I'm being reasonable. Yinyan stared at his face, zeroing in on the most crucial point. Perhaps you don't care about Jiang Zhe, but I don't believe you don't care about the Jiang, old madam. Again, there was Jiang Zhe's knocking on the door, a little questioning and impatient. Yinyan, what exactly are you doing in there? Yinyan, however, wasn't anxious this time, staring unblinkingly at Jiang Yinyan. Jiang Yinyan's gaze was heavy. After a moment, he said, Tell him clearly that you're breaking up, and don't let me see you still entangled with him. Yinyan's heart landed. Of course. She slightly turned her head. Jiang Zhe, could you please get me one of Grandaunt's handkerchiefs? Jiang Zhe said with a smile, It's okay. There's still the smell of oil on my clothes. Grandaunt's handkerchief is fragrant. It's always good to cover it up. Yinyan insisted. Jiang Zhe was unwilling, but he still obediently went upstairs to get the handkerchief. The alert was temporarily lifted. Jiang Yinyan stared at her for a moment, then reached out to her. She instinctively shrank back, but when she saw him frown, she stopped moving. Jiang Yinyan didn't continue to do anything to her, but he helped her tidy up her clothes and then left the restroom. Yinyan didn't leave immediately. Returning to the sink, she wetted the oil-stained cuffs again, and her eyes turned red. Frustration, humiliation, and helplessness. This feeling was so terribly uncomfortable. When she looked up, she was really startled, and the redness of her eyes receded. There was a hickey on her collarbone. It was left by Jiang Yinyan just now. It was a hickey, more like a shackle, suffocating Yinyan. She buttoned her collar tightly, covering her neck completely. When she came out of the restroom, Jiang Zhe was just coming over with the handkerchief. He was very surprised to see that the buttons of her clothes were fastened all the way up. Aren't you hot? Jiang Zhe said, reaching out to her. She stepped back, avoiding Jiang Zhe's hand. Now that it's just the two of us, you don't need to pretend to be affectionate, do you? Lightly tying the handkerchief around the wet cuffs, Yinyan had already composed herself in the process. Jiang Zhe stared at her, his tone displeased. Were you alone in the restroom just now? Otherwise, Yinyan faced him directly. Who did you think I was with? Jiang Zhe narrowed his eyes slightly, his gaze falling on her tightly covered neck. He quickly softened his expression and stepped forward, softly saying, Yinyan, there's really nothing between me and GZ. I was really concerned about the Wanzhou matter. Can't you give me a chance at all? I know what you said was just out of anger. It wasn't out of anger. Without the Jiang old madam present, Yinyan didn't need to consider anything, so she said it directly. Jiang Zhe, I won't marry you. As for why you're so eager to get married now, you know in your heart, and I can guess it too. So, for the sake of both our reputations, you should still persuade Grandma Jiang. With that, she wanted to leave. Her path was blocked by Jiang Zhe, who scoffed. I see you have a new love, don't you? Jiang Zhe. Yunyan's expression was cold. In our relationship, I believe I have treated you fairly, so I have no guilt or shame in proposing to break off the engagement now. On the contrary, what about you? You were already messing around with GZ, weren't you? When the Yu family was in trouble, when I was in deep water, where were you? You spent lavishly to become the investor behind GZ, bribing the judges to help her win the award just to give her a birthday present. I didn't. Jiang Zhe's face turned ugly. Yinyan approached him, her eyes cold. Commercial marriage, I never asked for any genuine treatment, but you should at least manage the most basic respect. Jiang Zhe, it's not that I don't know about your affairs. I just couldn't be bothered to investigate. Do you really think I know nothing about your dirty, clandestine dealings with GZ? Once upon a time, she had truly liked Jiang Zhe. He was considerate, handsome, and when interacting with the Yu family, he was gentle and polite, all qualities that the Yu family valued most before their downfall. He was an outstanding figure among the elite circle of Beijing, and the most beloved grandson of old Mrs. Jiang. Which socialite wouldn't fawn over him and long for him? But he told her, Yin, I only like you. He flew thousands of miles to her school to see her, giving her all the gentleness and consideration she desired. Whatever she liked, he could get it to her the next day without batting an eye. He could accompany her to prestigious events, and also spend an entire day flying kites with her out of boredom. At the time, Yin thought this is probably what ordinary girls experience in love. Even though it's a commercial marriage, even though their union is destined for profit, he gave her the longing and yearning for love and brought her endless joy and anticipation. But later, she found out that besides her, there were other women in his life that he would spend the day laughing and joking with her. But at night, other women were warming his bed. Family alliances are a serious matter, and any carelessness could affect the rise and fall of both companies in the business world. She could turn a blind eye and maintain the marriage relationship for the sake of the Yu family. Anyway, for her, the more free something is, the more expensive it becomes, like love. She had long stopped expecting love and didn't believe in it either. What could love do? Be worth 10,000 taels of gold in a crisis. Loving someone is enough to fill you is a fairy tale. Forget 10,000 taels of gold. Not even a small piece of bread can compare. But the Yu family's downfall and Wanzhou's accident completely shattered Yin's dreams. She couldn't rely on Jiangze, and Jiangze wouldn't shoulder the burdens of life for her. Not even the things that ordinary couples or even spouses would do. Jiangze would only be like a leech, sucking the remaining title of a fallen socialite to create a good husband and grandson image in the Jiang family. And after the marriage would be a disaster. Currently, although there are signs that Jiang Yin is gradually taking power in the Jiang family, Jiangze's father, Jiang Yintai, is the eldest son of the Jiang family and has been by old Master Jiang's side since childhood, dealing with various shareholders. Jiang Yin is the youngest son. Although he is deeply loved, he was abducted for many years after all. He spent his most important youth fighting outside, and no one can say for sure how much affection he has for the Jiang family, especially those shareholders. As the eldest grandson, Jiangze will inevitably hold power in the future, and that day will become closer with his marriage. Will he care about the alliance and the Yu family then? Yin doesn't believe it. A person who can't fulfill his premarital promises will probably let his true colors fly even more after marriage. Jiangze's face turned red and white from her rebukes. The anger in his eyes flashed several times, but he suppressed it in the end. He lowered his stance. Yin, what do you want me to do to believe my feelings for you? Jiangze, we shouldn't linger here. It's not good to leave Grandma Jiang at the table. Yin really didn't want to hear his vows of eternal love. Because of Yin's insistence, Grandma Jiang also seemed to be in a pensive mood at the table. She didn't try to persuade her, but at the same time, she didn't nod in agreement to call off the engagement. In other words, young people's affairs still depend on fate, and a marriage is not urgent. Was Wanzhou frightened? Bring Wanzhou home to visit me tomorrow. Grandma misses him. Grandma Jiang's intentions couldn't be clearer that why Yin didn't push further. Her attitude regarding the annulment of the engagement was clear. She could only take things one step at a time afterward. She said, Wanzhou is afraid to come now, afraid that he will bring bad luck to you. I will ask him to see you after things calm down. Grandma Jiang waved her hand. What bad luck? In my heart, Wanzhou is family, just like Aze. She looked at Jiangze, her tone becoming stern. Go and personally pick up Wanzhou and bring him home. Did you hear me? I hear. Don't bother others, Grandma Jiang. Wanzhou just came out and has a lot of troublesome things to deal with. When things stabilize, Wanzhou and I will invite you to afternoon tea. Yin didn't let Jiangze say, I hear, and used the word others to describe Jiangze. Moreover, Yin's words were very measured. She said invite you to afternoon tea, instead of come visit you for afternoon tea. The latter meant coming to the house, while the former meant going out, a typical way to avoid suspicion and clear the relationship. Grandma Jiang was an astute person. How could she not understand? But she didn't force anything, just patted the back of Yin's hand and said softly, all right. Jiangze was anxious, but helpless. Yin glanced at Jiang Yin without leaving a trace. He was sitting on the sofa, leisurely drinking tea, not knowing whether he was paying attention to what was happening at the table. But the sofa was close, and if he wanted to listen, he could hear the conversation here. His expression was calm and indifferent, without the aggressive forcefulness in the bathroom, like a bystander who couldn't be more idle. When Yin was about to leave, she didn't expect the rain outside the window to be pouring, as if the sky had a leak. Grandma Jiang found an opportunity and kept persuading Yin to stay overnight. There were many rooms in the old mansion, and she also instructed the housekeeper to quickly prepare one. How could Yin stay at the Jiang family? She repeatedly refused, saying that she had promised Wanzhou to go back tonight to discuss her mother's affairs. Hearing this, Grandma Jiang couldn't force her. After thinking about it, she urged Jiangze, you send Yin back. It's not safe to go in such heavy rain. Yin didn't drive, and the driver had personally picked her up to come to the Jiang family. Hearing this, Yin hurriedly said, No need. I'll just call a car. Why call a car? We have a driver right here, why not use him? Grandma Jiang gave Jiangze a look. Jiangze stepped forward and said, Nian Nian, I know you want to avoid me, but it's okay to give you a ride, right? It's raining so hard outside, and it's not easy to call a car around the old mansion. Yunyan glanced at Jiang Yinyan as if unintentionally. He was huddled on the sofa, reading a financial magazine, oblivious to what was happening here. The rain was quite heavy. Yunyan thought for a while and nodded. Jiangze quickly told the driver to prepare the car. Before leaving, Grandma Jiang was reluctant to let her go, holding Yunyan's hand and saying, be sure to come and see Grandma often. Yunyan felt a pang in her heart and voluntarily gave Jiang the old lady a hug, telling her to take care of her health. In this way, Yunyan got into Jiangze's car. Soon, the car disappeared into the pouring rain. Grandma Jiang was still standing at the window looking out with a look of melancholy. Jiang Yinyan put down a magazine and stood up, tidying up his shirt, and said, Mom, I'm leaving too. Grandma Jiang turned around in surprise. Going back in such heavy rain? From the old house to Yunyan's residence, there was a highway in between. But Jiangze merged into the lane 500 meters before the exit. Yunyan, watching him about to exit the highway, frowned. Jiangze, where are you taking me? Let's find a place to have a drink and chat properly, Jiangze said, steering the wheel with one hand, reaching for his cigarette case with the other, pulling out a cigarette and putting it in his mouth. Yunyan knew that Jiangze wouldn't obediently take her home and would definitely act up, but she didn't expect him to act up so blatantly. She said sternly, I want to go home. Am I going to sell you or eat you? We were good to each other once. Even if we break up, we don't have to be like enemies, right? Jiangze was about to exit the highway. Nian Nian, I just want to talk to you properly, really. He lit the cigarette. You came to the old house today and suddenly said you wanted to call off the engagement. There wasn't a single sign before. How am I supposed to accept that? Just because of GZ? I've already said it. I love you, not her. Yunyan hated the smell of cigarettes and waved her hand. Seeing this, Jiangze lowered the car window. The rain outside the window was lighter, and not much rain was blowing into the car, but the fishy smell of the rain mixed with the smell of tobacco was really unbearable for Yunyan. She was smart enough not to argue with Jiangze. She didn't want to repeat what she had said before. Provoking Jiangze at this time was definitely not a rational move. She took out her phone from her bag, and just as she was about to send her real-time location to Qiao Min, she heard a loud bang outside the car, followed by the car suddenly swerving. Jiangze slammed on the brakes, and Yunyan's upper body slammed hard into the car door, and her arm went numb. Fortunately, the car behind wasn't following too closely and whizzed past. The car stopped. It stopped right at the highway exit. Although it was quite late, there were still cars on the road. The road conditions became complicated due to the rain, and Jiangze's car blocking the way made the already complicated road conditions even worse. Jiangze cursed and got out of the car. He checked it and quickly returned to the car. Gradually, the traffic at the intersection slowed down and started to jam. Jiangze said angrily, the tire is blown. The heart Yunyan was holding finally relaxed, and she secretly breathed a sigh of relief. She said, hurry up and call a tow truck. There's a string of cars backed up behind us. I won't wait here with you. Seeing that she was about to leave, Jiangze grabbed her wrist. You can't get a taxi here, and it's raining. How are you going to get home? Yunyan thought, even if it's hailing outside, I have to find a way to leave. You don't have to worry about me. Hurry up and urged the tow truck. But Jiangze stubbornly refused to let her go. The sound of a horn sounded on Jiangze's side. Jiangze was already annoyed, and when he heard someone honking at him, his anger grew even greater. He lowered the window and cursed. What the hell are you honking for? You're on my left and not exiting. You F asterisk asterisk asterisk. He swallowed the rest of the words when the other party appeared at the window. Yunyan felt strange and tilted her head slightly, and through the thin rain mist, she saw Jiang Yinyan's face. He was driving himself, and after lowering the window, his gaze fell over here. Unlike at the old house, Jiang Yinyan's gaze locked onto Yunyan directly and frankly. Uncle! Jiangze's arrogant aura instantly subsided. Jiang Yinyan, with his hazard lights flashing, glanced at Jiangze's car across the divider. Did you call a tow truck? Not yet, Jiangze said, looking at the traffic behind him with a helpless expression. I'll call right away. In that case, miss you, get in my car, Jiang Yinyan said lightly. I'll take her home for you. Yunyan's heart suddenly thumped. Jiangze definitely wasn't willing. He was about to refuse when he heard Jiang Yinyan add, you're stuck at the fork and can only wait for a tow truck. You can't let Miss You wait with you, can you? It's too late, and it would be a problem if it started pouring rain. Jiangze hesitated. Miss You? This time Jiang Yinyan turned the question to her. What do you say? What to say? It was just jumping from one fire pit to a deep abyss. If she ignored the olive branch thrown by Jiang Yinyan and left the car at this time, the consequences would definitely be dire. She steadied her breath and said to Jiang Ze, "I'm switching cars. Take care of things here as soon as possible while the rain is light." Jiang Ze watched helplessly as Yinyan got into Jiang Yinyan's car. Jiang Yinyan turned the wheel, and the car sped away. Jiang Ze's teeth itched with hatred, and he slammed the steering wheel hard. The car traveled all the way, and there was silence all the way. When the car exited the highway, Jiang Yinyan turned the wheel and drove the car onto a side road and stopped. He raised his eyes and glanced at the rearview mirror indifferently. "Am I a chauffeur? Come sit in the front." Yinyan had directly pulled open the back door when she got into the car, actually wanting to avoid danger in front of Jiang Ze. Jiang Ze was suspicious, and she didn't want to create any complications when discussing the cancellation of the engagement. Seeing this, she could only push the door open, get out of the car, and sit in the passenger seat. Once the car door was closed again, the sound of the outside rain and traffic was swallowed up by the car's excellent soundproofing. Being so close to him, the man's strong and intimidating aura enveloped her completely, cold and unsettling. Jiang Yinyan turned to look at her. Just as he was about to reach out, Yinyan quickly fastened her seatbelt. He faintly curved his lips and didn't say anything, and started the car. Again, there was continued silence. Silence was fine. Yinyan thought it would be best if it could remain silent all the way home. But she secretly glanced at Jiang Yinyan's profile. The sharply defined lines outlined a sense of sharpness that made him seem silent and unapproachable. Would he take her home? The rain outside the window actually got heavier again. Yinyan turned her head to look out the car window, her vision gradually blurred by the torrential rain. The lights on the street became clusters of shadows, sliding laboriously across the car window, which made the interior of the car even more deathly silent. She finally couldn't hold back and asked, "Where are you taking me?" Jiang Yinyan steadily controlled the steering wheel and said indifferently, "The hotel." Yinyan's breath caught in her throat, and even her fingertips trembled slightly. "Can I?" Jiang Yinyan asked coldly. "It's not that," Yinyan said, breathing slightly faster. "It's just tonight. Who are you going to use as a cover this time?" "Yuanzhou," Jiang Yinyan sneered. Yinyan took a breath. "My point is, tonight is too rushed, and right now." She glanced at the time in the car and said bravely, "It's too late. I'm afraid that even if we go to the hotel, Xiao Yin won't be able to enjoy himself." Jiang Yinyan looked straight ahead, but asked meaningfully, "What does Miss Yu think counts as enjoying yourself?" The question left Yinyan speechless. "It seems Miss Yu has quite a few tricks up her sleeve," Jiang Yinyan said impolitely. "You haven't disgraced your title as a socialite." Anger flared up in Yinyan's heart, but she suppressed it and said in a faint tone, "Yes, so Xiao Yin has to find a generous amount of time to test my abilities, right? A year isn't long, and based on my ability to serve men, Xiao Yin might still be wanting more when the time is up." This was the most she had retorted to him since their reunion. After she finished speaking, her heart was beating wildly, and the palms of her hands were aching from being dug into by her fingernails. Jiang Yinyan was silent, his lips pressed together tightly. The look in his eyes was colder than the rain outside the window. The road was unfamiliar. Yinyan didn't dwell on where he was taking her. Even if it was really to a hotel, she was mentally prepared.